Evolution rewards size, strength, dominance. Bigger predators win. Stronger bodies survive. So the deeper you go into the ocean, the bigger life tends to get, until suddenly it doesn't. At nearly 11,000 meters below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, those rules start to collapse. Because the Mariana Trench doesn't reward power or strength. It rewards whatever can endure. The Mariana Trench doesn't just challenge our models of evolution, it dismantles them. It is not just a deep place, it is a sealed world, an evolutionary pressure cooker that has been running its own experiment for millions of years. If you dropped Mount Everest upside down into the Pacific, its peak would still fall more than a mile short of the trench's deepest point, the Challenger Deep. At the deepest point, the pressure is over 1,000 times stronger than at sea level. Imagine the weight of dozens of elephants pressing on every square inch of your body. Your lungs wouldn't just struggle, they would simply implode. And yet, life exists there. But to understand why the trench seems to break evolution, we need to descend first. As you move below 200 meters, sunlight begins to fade. By 1,000 meters, it's gone completely. No sunlight. None. Not even a photon. And something strange starts to happen. Creatures begin to get larger. This phenomenon is called deep-sea gigantism, and it's one of the most well-documented phenomena in marine biology. As depth increases and temperature drops, metabolic rates slow. Animals live longer and accumulate mass over decades, sometimes centuries. Consider the giant squid, for example, the Architeuthis ducks. In the mesopelagic and bathypelagic zones, the zones between 200 and 4,000 meters down, these animals grow to lengths of 13 meters or even more. Or the Japanese spider crab, leg span 4 meters, weight 19 kilograms. Giant isopods the size of dinner plates, massive jellyfish drifting like living curtains in the dark. You could be forgiven for expecting that trend to continue. That the very deepest place on Earth, the Hadal Zone, would contain the largest organisms of all. Giants in the dark. Apex creatures shaped by millions of years of extreme pressure. And you would be wrong. The Mariana Trench begins where most of the ocean already ends, around 6,000 meters down. Temperatures hover near freezing. Food is almost non-existent. And suddenly, the giants are gone. No colossal squid, no massive predators ruling the abyss, no deep-sea titans battling in the dark. Instead, you find something unexpected. Small, soft, fragile creatures. Below 6,000 meters, at the Hades Zone, named after Hades, the Greek god of the underworld, this region encompasses the deepest ocean trenches on the planet. And here, the trend reverses. What replaces the megafauna are organisms so small, so structurally minimal, that they seem almost abstract. This isn't evolution scaling up. It's evolution scaling down. The question is why? And the answer is more elegant and more brutal than most people expect. At Hadal depths, 3 forces converge to create conditions that favor small, simple, and soft. And they do so with ruthless precision. First, pressure scaling. Pressure increases with depth. But pressure doesn't scale kindly with size. The larger an organism becomes, the more force can act upon it. The more internal structures can fail. The more complex systems can collapse. At the Challenger Deep, the weight of the ocean, the hydrostatic pressure, is crushing. Calcified shells and rigid skeletons, the architecture that enables the construction of large exoskeletons, become impossible to build. The cost, energy. And down here, energy is everything. Evolution, in response, abandons this blueprint. Instead of building armor, life becomes softer. Instead of resisting pressure, it learns to live with it. Second, energy scarcity. The Hadal Zone produces almost nothing on its own. No sunlight, no plants. At trench depths, the supply is vanishingly small, It relies entirely on what rains down from above. Tiny flakes of dead plankton, waste, fragments of organic debris, a slow, thin drift of organic particles called marine snow. Big animals need big calories. Small animals don't. Smaller bodies, with lower baseline metabolic demands, are the ones that survive long enough to reproduce. So the ones that survive are the ones that ask for less. Third, structural complexity. Soft-bodied organisms, gelatinous, porous, membranous, are not fighting the pressure. They're equalizing with it. There is no rigid internal architecture to implode. Instead, their bodies are flexible. Even their chemistry has changed. Their proteins are shaped in ways that continue working where most life would simply fail. In other words, at extreme depth, structural simplicity is not a limitation. It is a survival strategy. Being small, soft, and metabolically thrifty is not a failure of evolution. Down here, evolution isn't about dominance, it's about efficiency. We've talked about pressure, energy, and structure. But there is another boundary, one set by chemistry. No fish has ever been recorded at the very bottom of the Mariana Trench, and there may be a molecular reason for that. Deep-sea fish rely on a compound called TMAO, trimethylamine N-oxide. TMAO stabilizes their proteins, preventing them from collapsing under extreme pressure. Without it, their cellular machinery would quite literally fall apart. But here's the catch: the deeper a fish lives, the more TMAO it needs. And at extreme depths, the required concentration becomes so high that it would disrupt the fish's own cellular balance in itself. Not because evolution failed, but because here, chemistry sets limits on a molecular level. In other words, there appears to be a chemical ceiling, and that ceiling appears to sit for fish at around 8,200 meters. For most of human history, the Hadal Zone was entirely beyond reach. The first successful descent to the Challenger Deep came in 1960, when Swiss oceanographer Jacques Piccard and U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh descended in the bathyscaphe Trieste, a vessel so specialized, so purpose-built for that single journey, that it took years to construct and could barely maneuver once it arrived. Sample collection at those pressures is extraordinarily difficult. Organisms that are perfectly adapted to 1,086 atmospheres often begin to disintegrate the moment pressure is reduced during retrieval. What we pull to the surface is frequently not what was alive at the bottom. Recent robotic missions, including the 5 Deeps expedition in 2019, which sent the DSI limiting factor to the Challenger Deep, have returned new video, new samples, new species candidates. But the truth is that we have mapped less than a quarter of the Hadal Zone. We have a name for the abyss, but we do not yet have its inventory. Perhaps the most surprising fact about the Mariana Trench is something you only notice when you zoom out of it. Because the Mariana Trench isn't alone. It's one of more than 20 major ocean trenches scattered across the planet. Sure, they share similar origins, similar depths, similar crushing pressure, but they are completely isolated from one another. Each trench is like a remote island 10,000 meters underwater, separated by distances no deep-sea species can easily cross. So it evolves in isolation. Each trench becomes its own evolutionary experiment, its own sealed world. At the bottom of our world, life is something that almost looks like nothing. So here's the deeper truth. The Mariana Trench didn't break the rules of evolution. It reveals the only rule that truly matters: fit or fade.